Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Today we're looking at the final cards that are going to be introduced within Yu-Gi-Oh 7s. As the anime has now progressively finished, we are getting the best cards, the best fusion monsters combined with their traditional monsters within the game. Master of Seven's Road is a level 9 Dark Attribute Spellcaster type fusion effect monster with 3000 attack and 2100 defense. The materials are Seven's Road's Magician and Seven's Road's Witch. There is no requirement, and it has a continuous effect. This card gains 300 attack times the number of monsters must be Dark Attribute Spellcaster types, with different names in your graveyard. Also, if there are 7 or more monsters that are Dark Attribute Spellcaster types in your graveyard, this card attacks inflict piercing. This is a decent way of symbolizing the fusion of 2 of Yuga's specific monsters, his versions of Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl in the forms of Seven Roads Magician and Seven Roads Witch. Combining the two, it's decent because both of those monsters are Dark Attribute Spellcasters and they meet that requirement, so instantly when you fusion summon this card, it becomes a 3600 attack monster. Obviously, if you're running this as part of your pure build, you're going to be running multiple versions, and depending on where you use those within the duel, this card can easily become over 4000 attack points, so long as you're meeting a minimum of 4 of these monsters in the graveyard. It does get the benefit if there are 7 or more to inflict piercing battle damage. Not necessarily saying that's the most relevant, but it's here as a main beat stick type of strategy, and if you're going to go down that route, you might as well throw everything at it, including the piercing damage. So I would say getting 7 monsters is also not a difficult requirement. The nice thing as well is, since it's a continuous effect, this will continue throughout the duel so long as you've got this monster on the field, whereas there are a lot of cards within Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush duels that may gain an effect for a turn and then lose that at the end of the turn. Fantasia Strike Dragon Mirror Gearstar F is a level 9 Dark Attribute High Dragon type fusion effect monster with 3000 attack and 2000 defense. The materials are an Illusion Strike Dragon Miragius and the Star Dragon. The requirement, you can activate this by sending the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and you can choose the effect. Either choose up to 3 face-up monsters your opponent controls, they lose 1500 attack until the end of the turn. During this turn, this card can make attacks on monsters twice, or during this turn, this card can attack directly. This is the combination of the strongest monsters that Luke has, who is the main rival of Yuga. Its effects are dependent on really what you want to do. If you can defeat your opponent by just attacking directly, then just go ahead and use that effect. Alternatively, if you just need to mass up some more damage, being able to attack twice on face-up monsters and to have your opponent's monsters lose 1500 attack points. Essentially, if they don't have 3000 or more attack points, they're losing at least half of their attack, and you're going to be able to rack up that much damage more easily. The requirement on this card as well is just to send the top card of the deck to the graveyard. It's a very easy. Tarasu, the Celestial Summoner, is a level 9 light attribute Celestial Warrior type fusion effect monster. It has 3000 attack and 3000 defense, and it requires a Semiruler, the Dark Summoner, and Valkyrian Sukari. It has no requirement, and you can choose the effects. Choose one monster, it must be a level 8 or lower warrior or fairy type monster in your graveyard, and special summon it to your field face up. Or choose monsters in your opponent's graveyard up to the number of monsters with 0 attack in your graveyard, and shuffle them into the deck. This again is depending on what you want to do, depending on what your opponent is running. So you might want to go with the first effect if you want to just beat stick your opponent and defeat them straight away. You are able to go for level 8 or lower warrior or fairy types, which gives you a means of using, a combination of decks. It's not purely built towards one strategy. And by doing that, you've got a 3000 attack monster plus another high attack monster, hopefully, to just pound your opponent into destruction. Secondary effect, it's actually good if your opponent has cards in their graveyard that would activate in there. By shuffling them back into the deck, it's going to make it more difficult for them to recover their resources and to get themselves back to speed. It is also dependent on having a collect 0 attack monsters in your graveyard, so you are going to have to run a very specific style of deck to meet these requirements. And the final monster is Endless Romance Blitz. This is a level 9 fire attribute Omega psychic type fusion effect monster. It has 2800 attack and 2500 defense. The materials are Folder Blitz the Infinite Dream and 1 Roman Pick. The requirement: you can activate this by choosing 1 Folder Blitz the Infinite Dream and 1 Roman Pick in your graveyard and shuffling them back into the deck. And you can choose the effect: either inflict 1500 points of damage to your opponent, or draw 3 cards, then choose 2 cards from your hand and send them to the graveyard. Interesting thing about this requirement is the monsters you're using to fuse to summon this card are those monsters, so you're actually just able to recover those monsters without having to run anything specific. So you can run multiple of these fusions, knowing that you're going to continually be able to bring them out. Choice of effect is also quite nice. You can either burn your opponent for 1500 points of damage. If they're on low life points, that might be enough to finish off the game. Or you can choose to draw 3 cards and then send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard. It's a graceful charity effect. Who doesn't like graceful charity in no matter what form it comes, even if it's a monster? It's fine. It's definitely something that is useful, and I would argue out of the monsters that have been seen, it's definitely one of the more usable. The interesting thing I find is that these have some kind of hybrid typing to them. So for example, this one has Omega Psychic type. I wonder whether we're going to see more of these types of combinations within the future, going into the brand new series, which is the 8th series now, and maybe even further support maybe within pure builds rather than just fusions, or even if we're going to get some brand new typing towards it. So for example, here you've got Celestial Warrior type. They've never had any of these within the original series of Yu-Gi-Oh, and perhaps they might introduce those into the original TCG, or maybe it might be an exclusive Rush Duels series typing. You've got the High Dragon type, and you have, ironically, the only one that's a plain spellcaster type monster in there in terms of the main character. Whatever you think of these cards, please let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. Is there anything that you'd have as your favourite, or is there anything you particularly don't like out of these 4 final boss monsters? Put those in the comments down below, and make sure to watch my next video in the end screen to help support my channel. Thank you.